Welcome to Right
Fucking.
Now, baby.
We already got our intro shot, so we don't have to do it.
We got some kind of shot.
A great one.
Yes, I love it. So John just got back from Italy and Colorado, and I was asking him about his trip, and he was talking about a moment that he had in Italy.
Yes.
And I would love for you to share that.
Yes, I love this as a jumping off point. So I had what I would consider the most amazing experience that I could have dreamt of in Italy at a winery in Tuscany, out in the countryside, sipping on wine that was made right there, eating Parmesan out of one of those fucking giant, like 100-pound wheels. Some ladies like cutting it out. And I have a moment just taking it all in, family, friends, everything around, perfect weather. And I had this really cool realization of recognizing this is one of the coolest experiences I could imagine, like as a dream to have, and I'm having it right now. And it was blissful and amazing. And paradoxically, at the same time, I had this realization that I could choose to embrace a perspective and emotions in any circumstance in life. I didn't have to be there. I could be wet in a gutter, and in that moment, I was recognizing I could still hold, I guess what I'd call the vibration, like the emotional feeling of being there, regardless of where I am. And I kind of saw this as maybe a consciousness manifestation of a focus I've been really looking at lately through Joshua, where same as Bashar, same as everyone's saying, external circumstances are in and of themselves meaningless. And that's the gift of life. You were designed to give every circumstance meaning. The meaning you give in is the experience you get back. And I was really recognizing I can be completely unconditional and choose to hold a certain state of being regardless of anything. And in that same moment, deeply appreciating the manifestation I was experiencing.
Yeah, that's got to be so cool. Like one of those full circle moments. Like you probably dreamt about, that kind of thing and then actually experiencing it. I love like moments like that, like choosing something to anchor it into my body or into my mind. And, sometimes I like physical anchors. Like I just like put my hand over my heart or I don't know, touch my fingers together. Like just something like, okay, remind me. And when I forget, then I can just touch this and remember this feeling. Remember.
That's just what I was thinking
feeling. But it's just like that. And, when I host Dr. Joe healing sessions online, one of the things I often say at the end to the healees is memorize this feeling in your body so that in days, weeks, months to come, if you happen to forget, you can remember what it was like to be in truth and to be the recipient of this much love. And I think that's it. Like we are forgetters by nature. Like we forget. And my daughter called me that. Mom, you're such a good forgetter. I'm like, yeah, it's so true.
Maybe the paradox in that too, though, is I'm realizing as I validate memory less and less, which this is kind of on topic, I can easily forget things I don't prefer too. Like Bashar says, every second is a brand new second. So sometimes I'm forgetting higher, broader perspectives of truth, but then it actually benefits me because I forget lower like trauma incidents. They're like gone a second later too. But as you were speaking, I was having a bit of an aha moment. That's really it. That's what I was, like you were reading exactly what I was saying. I didn't realize exactly what I was saying, but that's exactly it. I showed myself the emotional quality of that experience and I was recognizing, I was anchoring to that moment and recognizing I can take this back to any circumstance. And that's exactly what Bashar says about plant teachers. He goes, as soon as you experience a plant teacher once or twice, you've marked your energy there, you know what the experience is, and then you no longer need the external permission slip to go back to that well for that type of experience or that type of insight.
Oh,
wow, that was really cool.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh, I feel really good.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's so fun, like when different teachings kind of from different places kind of coalesce into an experience where you can like feel it in your body and anchor it in and figure out how to use it. How are you going to apply it moving forward?
Hell yeah. What's coming to mind too for me now is for the last like week or so, I've been getting this analogy during meditations of a computer operating system. My friend Mariana was actually using this quote like, just like you update the operating system in your computer, you need to update the operating system in your mind. And that spurred me to think deeper. I think she probably got that quote from somewhere, although maybe it's hers, I'm not sure. But I was recognizing in my meditations that the core beliefs I hold are almost like the operating system of a computer. And then every program I run on that operating system is running based on like an underlying premise. And I was seeing core beliefs that I'm updating as the underlying premise from which every experience or program is then going to be interpreted on. And some of these core beliefs that I've been really committed to changing my perspective on are like, what is reality? Reality is pure love for me. Many people choose to believe reality is a hostile place where you're a separate being, everything's competing, everything wants to kill you. Valid perspective. I'm choosing a new like operating system belief that reality is literally pure love. So everything that's happening is benefiting me, even if my thinking mind can't understand how. I know it's not designed to know how, which is another core belief. My thinking mind can't understand how things are going to happen in the future. It's just here for the now. And having so much fun conceptualizing like a computer program, what's my core belief here, and tracing experiences back to find those core beliefs.
Beliefs are, I mean, we were talking about it earlier, and it's fascinating how, like I was talking about, how I can hold one belief about, I guess I might as well just say it. Huh?
Might as well, Karen, might as well.
Right, so I can have one belief about germs that like I'm pretty much immune to germs, but then a totally different belief about STDs. Like I'm totally susceptible to those, which keeps me from doing things sexually, right? So we were having this conversation. I'm like, when I hosted or when we were at Walk for the World, somebody had left a bottle of water. They'd taken a couple sips out of it, and the people who brought the water had left, and I was really thirsty. So I just pick up the bottle and I just start drinking it. And I'm like, I'm immune to germs. And then we start talking about STDs, and I'm like, oh, no, that's not safe. But it's just, John, just reflecting it back to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a belief. I have beliefs about germs, like, I'm immune to COVID, I'm immune to colds, I'm immune to flu. But oh no, when it comes to other things, better watch out, better be careful, better be practical.
I love that you're bringing that up because I've looked at the same thing with STDs or anything in general. Like any type of illness that can get you is all based on the same underlying premise that there's like such a thing as a disease that's transmitted through some vector. And like Karen and I were talking about a little before the show, I was bringing up the example of tuberculosis from, I don't even know what decade it was a big thing in, the 40s or 30s or 60s. Anyway, whenever tuberculosis was a thing, people realized, shit, if I'm in a closed space with someone, it's like transmitted via air. So if I'm sharing air with someone else, I have this potential, just like if I'm sharing a water bottle or all the different mechanisms. But truly, if you recognize what's actually happening here, it's the belief that spreads like a disease, or it can spread like a joy. I don't know. Is there a word for like a joy virus?
There is. And it's not in this language though.
Ooh.
But I don't remember what it is, but Dr. Joe has talked about it. That's really interesting.
Huh.
And I think of that too, like things like COVID, I think it was the fear that perpetuated it and caused it to take root. Because if people are fearing it, they're automatically attracting it to themselves. We know that.
100%. And I'll bring in an exciting quote from the Gaia channeling workshop I was at, where Sheila Gillette, who channels Theo, gave the quote. I mean, I'm probably more or less paraphrasing, but she said, worry is praying for what you don't prefer. Because we all know we're creating our own reality. We all know emotions are the indicator. So when you're focused on a thought or focused in a direction that's causing worry, it's your emotional guidance system saying, hey, you're creating a reality you're not going to prefer. All probabilities exist, and right now you're calling forth that one you don't prefer. Yeah. So the fear is always the indicator you're moving in that direction of that truth becoming your experience. But really, you can say, I'm fucking invincible and immune to everything, and you get the emotional feedback like, wow, I feel great. And then you can immediately then see the next limiting belief. And that's like, whoa, just because you say it doesn't make it true. And then you shrink back down again. Yep. And then I'll choose the belief, actually saying it fucking does make it true for me. And then you feel empowered again. And I can see this back and forth.
Yeah.
And most of it's a back and forth with what I consider the collective conscious, or what I was taught at school. Like there's one science and this is, but I mean, in whatever year, 1600, everyone was taught the world is fucking flat. And the first person to say it's a sphere was like, no, you fucking idiot, it's flat. How we would have fall off if it was a sphere, right? And I love how Bashar makes the distinction between the scientific physics of what's occurring in the universe and the experience of it, and them being two completely different things, and how you can allow both to exist when you understand both. I was all over the map there.
You were. I know. I was thinking when you were talking about worry, you've mentioned a quote before. It's like faith in a future you don't want.
Yeah.
Which ties right into that.
Right into that.
I love it.
Yeah.
What are we focusing on?
Oh, shit.
And then we wanted to talk a little bit. You were talking about the ego stuff. From the Gaia.
Yeah, we can hop into that. Jessie J.P. Herman, I believe her name is, who channels an entity called Vagrian. It was the first time I saw her channeling at this Gaia workshop. And she started off talking a bunch about the ego. I think you can get this workshop on Gaia Plus. It was in Colorado just like a week or so ago. And she was defining the ego in a way that I've heard several other people define it, and it really resonated deeply with me. And that is, the ego is simply the belief in a separate self, the belief that I'm a separate being walking in a world that has no connection, or that I have no connection with. And Bashar's spoken on this topic too, by recognizing the ego is an essential part to the physical human experience. We recognize, according to Bashar's second law, or third law, the one is the all are the one. We literally all are the same thing. But in order to have this physical experience where like I'm here and Karen's here and there's space in between us, we need to some degree this sense of ego, which is saying, yup, you are separate. Otherwise, we would see right through the illusion and recognize we literally are each other, and this whole world we're in is us too.
Yeah. I love all the stuff about the ego. It's just, I've studied A Course in Miracles in the Way of Mastery for, 15 years, maybe longer. And there's a ton of talk about the ego. And we're talking spiritual ego, not psychology, ego, superego, id, none of that.
The distinction.
But the ego, the primary directive of the ego is to make you feel separate so that you don't realize the truth of who you are. And it does that in a variety of different ways. Just like having us identify with the body is a big one.
Big one.
And there are lessons in A Course in Miracles, and I think there's like 32 in a row that say, I am not a body. I am pure spirit. And I'm like, what? It takes us that many times, 32 days in a row, to actually get it. Okay, I'm not a body. But then we might go outside and stub our toe and like, oh, fuck. I am a body. No, I have a body. I'm not a body.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. If you were your body, think about when you were born. Like, you look completely different than you did when you were 1 minute old. In fact, every single one of your cells has regenerated how many times? So there's nothing here that was there except you're here and you were there. So if you were a body, you'd be gone. Like if you were a belief and you changed that belief, you'd go up in smoke, and that doesn't happen.
Yet.
I could go on and on.
Yet. I might decide to go up and smoke one day, but then I'll just physically incarnate back. Not to worry. Because we know what worry is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love when that happens. I love losing my train of thought.
Oh, me too. So I'm really big on, I just went to a sweat lodge on Tuesday. I used to go a lot. I used to go at least once or twice a month. And it reminds me of the Native American traditions. Like in their tradition, they have a thing called the pretender voices, which I think is phenomenal. That's what they call the voice of the ego. And think about the pretender voice. It's like telling you all this stuff, and it seems very logical inside your head.
Yes.
But if you really examine it and you talk about it or you write it down, you're like, that is so ridiculous. Like, why did it seem so convincing? And I love that term, the pretender voices.
Yeah. I love that you just mentioned the term logic with the pretender voices. It jogged my memory. So to this like computer system concept I've been playing with, I've been realizing the baseline facts that I enter as the operating system are then used as an application of the logic of how I come to conclusions. So when you can like change that base operating system, what previously seemed illogical suddenly becomes logical. And I'll go back to this example of some big changes occurring in my life as a separate self who's fearing reality, who's fearing change based on a core belief system that the world's a hostile place. Then it's going to be logical to say this change is scary and maybe threatening me. But when I change the underlying belief that reality is literally made of pure unconditional love for me, then all of a sudden it becomes super easy and logical to realize this change must be wonderful. And then on top of that, the other baseline, the physical mind is incapable of knowing how things are going to benefit me. All of a sudden, it's super logical to come to the conclusion that this change is magnificent.
Yeah.
And super easy. And I get the emotional feedback, like I really believe it. And I've been having so much success. People talk about the heart, and I see the power in getting that emotional feedback. I think the game that I'm really zeroing in, the game I was probably excited to play in this incarnation was actually using the mind as a key to accessing the heart. And I'm realizing by changing the logic in my system, it then changes the thought patterns, and then it gives me the emotional feedback, and I act from that. I can totally let down my guard in any second. I can totally give if I'm inspired to give, or just let go of stuff, objects, things, money, because from that core operating system, that reality is pure love and any change has to be benefiting me. The logic just flows effortlessly from that. And the pretender voices are coming, or previously that were coming to me more, were based on that, I don't want to say flawed logic or flawed operating system, but just a different operating system that I was originally taught.
Yeah, a glitch.
A glitch.
A glitch.
Boom.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love all that. And I keep thinking, we will always find evidence to support whatever our belief is, because we are filtering millions of bits of information every second, the subconscious mind is. So it's searching for something to validate your perception, and it will indeed find it. So like you're saying, if you're believing that the world is loving and kind and everything's happening for you, your mind is going to say, okay, that's what you want me to show you, that's what I'm going to show you, and it's going to mirror it back to you. Whereas if you think, oh, the world is not safe, everyone's out to get me, it's not fair, then guess what you're going to experience? I mean, that's what it's going to show you everywhere. And I've seen it so many times myself, and I love playing with this. Like, especially when I'm really aware and like in that mood, like, okay, let's play with it. Show me how the world is generous, and like, go out and just play. And it's not always the way that I think it'll be. Sometimes it's me being generous. Like, okay, you want to see it? Then, okay, let's do this. And I get like this directive. I'll get an intuitive hit, like, okay, do this. Buy this person's coffee or whatever. Like, take this. I mean, even, this is very silly. It's a silly example, but if I'm in Starbucks working and I see somebody coming to open the door and they have a stroller, so many people sit there, they don't open the door. But I go and open the door. And for me, that's generosity. I'm showing this person how the world is generous and how you're always taken care of. Like, everywhere you go, you're taken care of. And if I can play that small role in someone else's life, that makes me feel very good.
Hell yeah.
And it validates the world is kind and loving because I'm being it. So, of course, it's being reflected back to me.
There it is. Don't tell them, show them.
Yeah.
I love that. Shout out to Jill, who yesterday sent me a video that had a sign with that in it. Don't tell them, show them. And I was like, oh, I love that.
It's not just for parenting.
Yes.
It's everywhere, right?
Yes. And you were hitting on another topic, which was a fucking massive like core belief that I unearthed. And it was this idea that the external reality has to validate me in like so many different ways, namely from others is the easiest way to receive validation when someone's like, you're right. Or it could be like in my morning meditation, I'll see wide open roads and green lights, and then I'll get on the road and see red lights and tons of traffic and be like, fuck, like it didn't work. So
Yeah.
Abraham talks about like taking score too soon, where you she's like, just continue your focus and like let the external reality do its thing. And I've really been playing with this a ton and really every day revisiting that core belief. I choose my state of being, I choose my beliefs, and what the external reality does is irrelevant to that. And
Right.
separating myself from what I'm seeing in this essentially this illusion, which is a beautiful illusion, but I'm not going to sit around and wait anymore for it to validate. Even if everyone's telling me I'm wrong, that's fine. Like, they're living their truth. I almost see it as like a fun test.
Yep.
Like, I see a little like ghost coming up to
Yeah.
me. I'm like, I'm not afraid of anything. And this ghost sneaks up and he goes boogity boogity boogity. And he's like waiting for me to be like, ah! So now I see it. I get excitement when
Yeah.
someone's like, you're wrong. I'm like, oh, I can just like stand here and be like, yeah, you're right. Like,
Yep.
it's irrelevant. And I feel like surge of power in just allowing someone to tell me I'm wrong and saying, sure, like,
Yes.
and still knowing inside
Yeah.
they're choosing their truth, but I know mine.
Yeah, I love that. And our view of time is very skewed based on everything eternal. And I love Bashar's like, if you know everything's happening for you, who cares what happens? And then also, Bashar might not say this, but I do, like when it happens, like we are not in control of that part. We just get to be in charge of our own vibration and what we are, who we're being, how we're being. And I want to go back to what you said about thoughts. I think as humans, I mean, our thoughts do cause our emotions most of the time, whether they're conscious or not. They're coming from up here or back here most of the time, you know, for the primitive mind. So becoming kind of unearthing what's in there, what are those beliefs, and what keeps tripping you up? What do you keep tripping over, right? What's causing you to feel non-preferred emotions, anger, sadness, disgust, frustration, all those things. Expectation, oh gosh. Expectation, premeditated resentment. Yeah, the
Yeah.
big one.
Yeah. I was just,
Expectation, like, oh, I did my meditation. Okay, everything's gonna be perfect today.
yeah.
Right? And if it's not, like, some people will make it mean something about themselves or about the world or about what they're doing isn't working. Or, you know,
This brings up a whole interesting topic, which is like adjunct to it, and that this ties into the ego, because Bashar speaks on this. Sometimes you think you want something, but it's actually the ego being scared. Like, for instance, we all want to be billionaires, and if I sit, or I'm projecting, so I want to be a billionaire, and then when I sit with it, there is some element where it's like it's fear of not having enough, which is the desire for that reality to be super wealthy. So you realize it's actually the ego in separation and fear that's desiring that reality, when in truth the most magnificent unconditional life would be knowing in every moment, in perfect time, I'm gonna have what I need. And I know that and I trust that. I don't need $1 million to feel safe, because I know I'm already safe in every second. And I'm not gonna give the external reality the power to be the only thing that validates me.
yeah.
Right? So if the external reality says you have no money and it's going boo, am I gonna go, I have no money, like I'm threatened, I'm gonna die? Or am I gonna say, this is irrelevant, my state of being is fine, I know I'm always gonna have what I need? And like playing life as a game like that, not only is it fun as fuck, but it's like exhilarating. It's like easy to get surges of excitement just
Yeah.
from nowhere, because you realize every second is a game.
Ah, I love that. I've been playing with that a lot, and it's unbelievable how things show up. Like, just out of the blue, things show up, and it's remarkable. But it's definitely pushes you to the edge. I'll say you that, especially when it comes to money, because the way that most of us have been conditioned around money is, you know, there's only so much of it. If you don't have it, this is going to happen. And, you know, we think about consequences, and choosing to be happy no matter what is coming in or what the bank account shows it's been fun. It's been a challenge sometimes, but I've been playing with it a lot lately. I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm taken care of, so what am I going to stress about? I'm just going to have some fun.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to serve, because that's my whole driver, is serving and ending suffering for people. And if I am doing that, whether I'm getting paid by those people or not, it's going to come, right? If I'm on mission and I feel really good about what I'm doing, I will be taken care of. And it's been proven over and over.
That's it. Don't
Yeah.
tell them, show them.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, my highest truth is showing them by choosing joy and excitement and following my passion, regardless of anything the external world is telling me. You're not good enough. You don't have enough money. You have no experience at this. All of that is irrelevant. There's those erroneous voices that are based, from my perspective, on a flawed belief system, or not flawed. My inner being is telling me that belief system is out of alignment with me. If I want to live my best life, listen to the emotions and change the underlying beliefs to get it.
Yeah, just being present with what am I feeling right now and what is the thought that preceded it, because that's really big. There's always, like you were identifying, there's always a thought that precedes a feeling. And if you could just go back a little bit, turn off the TV, put the phone down, I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
And what was the belief or the thought that preceded it? And then also your question, Bashar's question, what must I believe to be experiencing this or feeling this?
Yeah. Yeah, and I always am realizing I can eventually find the belief. Yeah. Sometimes in the moment, the emotions might be overwhelming, and I've entered now another new core belief in my operating system, which says, even if I can't figure out the underlying belief in the moment, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna let myself off the hook, be good to myself. Let's go get ice cream. I'm not gonna rely on the external world to soothe me, but I am gonna use it in like a way of self-love, in not hammering myself to recognize I have to find this belief right now. I'll just flag it. I know there's an out of alignment belief here. I know I have too much momentum in this emotion going. I'm gonna soothe myself and it'll come. And I've been seeing that now later in the day. Once I cool down the next day, all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, there's the belief.
Oh,
like you can only perceive what you're in the vibration of.
Yeah.
So I realize if I have too much momentum pointed downward, like that's not the time to get deep in the emotional work, but like lighten up, and then all of a sudden it'll become apparent.
And there's the Einstein quote, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. So if you're in the problem, you can't solve it. Yeah. So usually what I do if I'm in that and I'm ready to get out is I call somebody. Because just, when two or more are gathered, the ego can't maintain its charade. It just can't. It just disintegrates. You'll be like, I can't believe I was thinking that. It's so stupid. I heard this thing about beliefs. This guy was saying, whose love did you crave the most when you were growing up? And then you identify like mom, dad, whoever. And then who did I have to be in order to get that love?
Ooh.
Like, how did I have to show up? Who did I have to pretend to be, really? And then who could I never be if I wanted that love? And I'm like, oh, that one hit me. Because one of my mom's things was she actually gave me the most love out of my parents, but I craved her love more. Like, I craved it. And one of the things she would say is like her bosses that were wealthy thought they were better than everybody else. So in my mind, I thought I could never be wealthy and be loved by my mom. And I've known that for a long time, but it's just like, unraveling it, like walking it back. Like, really, is that true? And I did a thing, kind of an exercise. I'm doing a grief class right now that's really phenomenal. And we're kind of practicing on each other. And this guy did a meditation for me. And one woman was doing a process for another woman. And I just closed my eyes and went with it. And I got a message from my mom. It was so cool. And she's like, Karen, it's time. Let that shit go. Let it go. I was wrong. You are meant to be abundant. You're meant to be wealthy. You're meant to serve. You're meant to shine. Show up. Use your voice. And go kick some ass. So I'm like, okay, let's do it.
I love that. And that jives so perfectly. I've heard Abraham say 1,000,000 times, when someone has croaked, and she uses that term intentionally to be disrespectful, because there's no such thing. Bashar's first law, you exist forever. You're just shifting frequencies. But she says the reason you can't connect with a person who's croaked is because you're looking for them where they were. And now that they've croaked, they've dropped all their limiting beliefs, and they're now basically aligned with source, which is pure unconditional love for you.
Right.
So I'm getting goosebumps right now. Like, that tracks perfectly. You realize your mom dropped the limiting beliefs.
Yes.
She's there, and she's always there. And then recognizing too, like Abraham says, your source of love is through yourself. As soon as you're dependent upon something in the external world to give you love, essentially validate you, like you're fucked. You've decided the outer world has more power than you do, and you've given away the entire farm. And there's another one of those core beliefs I'm installed. The only source of love is from myself. And what I'm actually craving to do and everyone else to do is just to flow the love outward, because the only source of love is within me. And what I actually want to do is just give the love because I'm overflowing, not needing anything from the external world. Oof, I can feel that. Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
Woo!
We're going to go run a marathon?
We're going to go run. I'm going to go do a TV show.
Sweet. I feel great. And that is always my indicator of alignment, that surge of energy
So good.
and joy.
Ah, thank you, John.
Karen.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for watching and listening to
Right
Fucking.
now.
Yeah. Peace out.
Bye.